Hey everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's public meeting for the draft supplemental environmental impact statement for the Perma-Fix Northwest permit renewal. Just about the longest title we could have. My name is Dana McFadden and I work with Ecology and I'm your facilitator for this evening. First, I'd like to say that this is a public meeting and not a hearing. We will not be taking formal comment during this meeting. If you want to submit a comment, you can do so on our website, by email, or by snail mail, and those addresses will be in the presentation later as we go along. I also want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on our website and on the YouTube, the Ecology YouTube channel. Online participants are going to be muted until the question and answer session starts. And also we ask that if you have any conversations going on in the room, that you take them outside to finish the hall because the owl hears everything. So it'll pick up little whispers and all that kind of stuff. The final bit of housekeeping, and then we'll go on to the presentation. The restrooms, if you haven't been here before, the restrooms are out the door and to your left, slightly down the hall. And if we happen to have, oh, and there's a water fountain out there too. And in case we have an emergency and need to evacuate, you can go out the double doors here to the right, or there's an emergency door there to the left. And we ask that everybody gather up at the Ecology sign just so that we can make sure that everybody evacuated safely. For tonight's meeting, we're going to have a presentation with Eddie and John, and then a question and answer session. The people online, you can put your questions in the chat, or you can indicate you have a question by raising your hand. So now I'd like to introduce Eddie Holbrook, our Deputy Program Manager, and John Temple, the Waste Treatment Section Manager, acting to start our presentation. Ta-da!
All right, well, I'm John Temple. I'm the Acting Waste Management Section Manager, and my section provides regulatory oversight for the mixed waste facility at Perma-Fix Northwest. So I'll get off an outline. So we're going to cover a brief history of the Perma-Fix Northwest facility and the draft permit. We'll give some background on the SEIS and also the alternatives for SEIS, and then what's next after the public meeting, and also how to comment. So next slide. All right, so Perma-Fix Northwest operates a commercial mixed waste facility and a level waste facility on 45 acres near the Hanford site in an industrial area in the city of Richmond. Operations began in 1999 under Allied Technology Group. It was then sold to Pacific Eco Solutions, and then in 2007, Perma-Fix Environmental Services purchased the site, which we now know as Perma-Fix Northwest. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, there are two facilities. There's the low-level waste facility that processes only radioactive waste. So that facility is regulated by the Washington State Department of Health. And then the mixed waste facility that provides services for the treatment and storage of mixed waste, and also the storage of mixed toxic substance control act, PCB waste. Our authority, or Ecology's authority, lies with the dangerous waste component of the mixed waste, managing the mixed waste facility. So that's going to be the one we'll be focusing on today. The mixed waste facility consists of processes and equipment to treat and store various waste streams. All waste that enters the mixed waste facility is stored and appropriately repackaged or treated, and then shipped offsite for further treatment or disposal. Now, to provide for treatment and storage of the mixed waste, So to provide for treatment and storage of mixed waste, that requires a dangerous waste permit that's issued by Ecology. But there are also other permits and licenses that are required to operate the mixed waste facility. For the storage of mixed TSCA PCB waste, that requires a TSCA approval that's issued by EPA. For the radioactive component of mixed waste and mixed PCB waste, that is regulated under the Washington State Department of Health, and that's under a radioactive materials license. Now, if you're interested in more of the other facility permits and licenses, you can take a look at the draft permit addendum J, other federal and state laws. Okay, next slide. So we can go over a little brief history of the permit renewal. So in 1999, Ecology and EPA issued the initial permit for the storage and treatment of mixed waste and mixed TSCA PCB waste to Allied Technology, which was effective through 2009. As I mentioned, Perma-Fix took over facility in 2007, and the transfer of the permit to Perma-Fix Northwest took place at the same time. Now, in 2009, Perma-Fix Northwest submitted to Ecology and EPA a permit renewal application for the mixed waste facility. And EPA and Ecology determined that the application was complete, but we still needed to go through the technical reviews. And since we called the application complete, the current permit would remain in effect until the permit renewal became effective. So since the original completeness determination in 2009, Ecology and EPA worked with Perma-Fix Northwest on subsequent revisions of the permit renewal application. In 2021, the EPA and Ecology decided to issue separate authorizations for TSCA PCBs and mixed waste. So in September of 2023, EPA granted the approval to commercially store PCB waste at Perma-Fix Northwest. And that brings us to August of 2024. Perma-Fix Northwest submitted to Ecology an updated permit application, which Ecology determined that it was complete. We then spent the next few months drafting the permit for public comment, which we then put out in January. So some of you may look at the time frame and be like, well, what happened between 2009 and 2024? What the heck? And you know, there was a lot of reasons for that delay. You can look at in the past time spent processing permit modifications. There was also staff turnover, both at Perma-Fix and Ecology, that led to delays. But I will say in the last 18 to 20 months, we made considerable progress to get us to the point we are today. Next slide, please. So changes we have in the permit renewal. There's an additional treatment unit, second in barrel compactor. There's also additional treatment processes such as chemical oxidation, chemical reduction. We proposed increased capacity for treatment units, and those are based off engineering calculations, which are part of the draft permit and available for public review. And we also increased additional container storage space. So one thing we did, we removed a lot of outdated information and treatment units that were never installed. We wanted to make sure that we only included existing, installed, and operable treatment units. We basically we cleaned up the permit to make it more user-friendly for the facility and also to assist our ecology compliance inspectors. Next slide.
Okay. Appreciate folks showing up here in person and online, and look forward to some Q&A here. But we'll go through a little bit about the State Environmental Policy Act and the history related to the environmental impact statement that was issued for this treatment, storage, and disposal facility under the dangerous waste requirements. So in addition to permitting responsibilities, Ecology must consider the probable significant environmental impacts of its permitting decisions under the State Environmental Policy Act, including whether a permitted facility may have a probable adverse impact to the environment, and if so, evaluate mitigation measures associated with that. The SEPA review process helps agency decision makers, applicants, and the public understand how the entire proposal will affect the environment. And SEPA is used to modify or deny a proposal to avoid, reduce, or compensate a probable impact associated with the action. So as John had mentioned, what was happening in parallel with permitting work and the issuance of the permit, the city of Richland issued the final environmental impact statement to support the initial permit in 1998. And what's driving us today for the supplemental environmental impact statement is the Perma-Fix Northwest submittal of the permit renewal application in 2009 to Ecology. Next slide. All right, so what I want to highlight here is in 2019, Ecology issued a scoping notice on March 4th, 2019, and provided a 21-day public comment period from March 4th through March 25th, 2019. The purpose of the expanded scoping was to discuss the Perma-Fix Northwest proposal to renew the dangerous waste permit and ask the public and other agencies for input on potential issues, impacts, and alternatives that should be evaluated under this supplemental environmental impact statement. From 2019 till 2025 here, based on the information from Perma-Fix and the public comments received during the expanded scoping period and the public meeting that we had associated with that scoping notice, alternatives have been developed to evaluate the probable significant adverse environmental impacts of Perma-Fix Northwest's proposal. Ecology issued the draft supplemental environmental impact statement to address additional and new impacts associated with Perma-Fix Northwest proposal for renewal of the dangerous waste permit and for its mixed waste facility operations that were not considered in the initial 1998 final environmental impact statement that was issued. So to facilitate comments that might be coming in between now from this public meeting and when we close out the public comment period, just wanted to go over a little bit about the structure of the draft supplemental environmental impact statement and offer a little bit of insight into each one of these chapters here. So the type of things you'll find obviously in the introduction is the purpose of SEPA, Ecology's roles and responsibilities associated with that, among other things. Under Chapter 2, you'll find facility descriptions, applicable permits and licenses that John talked about that are required to operate this facility, not just our permits, but permits issued by the Benton Clean Air Agency, licenses issued by Department of Health and others, including the one issued by EPA as well. You also will find breakdowns of waste process at the facility, the applicable waste codes for what can be accepted at the facility, detailed information about the waste analysis plan that you can also comment on under the permit as well, breakdowns of treatment activities, capacity of these treatment activities, transportation, as well as details about changes in processes. So treatment that was either added to the facility that John talked about, or those that were removed from the permit and either never installed at the facility or closed out at some point in time under Chapter 2. Chapter 3 under alternatives, you'll see details regarding the alternatives that we're going to look at a little bit later here, as well as under Chapter 4, you'll find affected environment or human environment and details regarding population. Under Chapter 5, you'll find details on impacts and mitigation measures regarding the activities at Perma-Fix Northwest. And Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 are a little bit self-explanatory there. So moving on to the next slide. So what's changed since 1998 when the final environmental impact statement was issued by the city of Richland, and what you'll find in the supplemental environmental impact statement that we're putting out for public comment right now. You'll find changes to the mixed waste facility operations, new waste streams such as transuranic waste and transuranic mixed waste, activities that are going on at Perma-Fix, increased transportation of waste to and from the facility, as well as changes to facility design, treatment processes, mitigation measures, and changes to the surrounding area around the facility as well. I won't go into detail on all the changes that are located here, but as you kind of read through the supplemental EIS, you'll find things like things that were described in the final EIS in 1998 look a lot different after that facility was constructed and operated for many, many years. And you'll find changes such as like the stabilization building description changing to like the mixed waste non-thermal area, or the gas pit building being described as the mixed waste treatment area, or the waste storage building being described as the waste storage building area. So what was described in the initial EIS was a number of facilities that were going to be separate from each other. But if you go to Perma-Fix currently, you'll find that many of these facilities are combined into one large building with different areas that kind of associate between where treatment happens, where storage happens, and so on and so on. Next slide. So a little bit about the alternatives here that I'll go into some detail about. So alternative one identifies continued dangerous waste operations under the current permit for the mixed waste facility. This includes a lot of units that are no longer are at the facility, and other activities that no longer occur at Perma-Fix Northwest. Alternative two describes continuing with the current permit, removing all those treatment activities that no longer exist at the facility, as well as the additions that John had talked about, and activities and treatment units that are described in our dangerous waste permit renewal application right now that's out for public comment. Alternative three talks about continuing with all the operations described in the dangerous waste permit renewal, but also additionally talking about the operation of the geomelt process unit, the stationary thermal treatment unit that treats reactive metals that could be received by the facility. And then our final alternative here is no action, which would require dangerous waste permits to cease, and requires Perma-Fix to cease the storage and treatment activities at the facility and close in accordance with the closure plan itself. Next slide. All right, so what's next after today's public meeting? So we will be continuing to accept comments for the supplemental environmental impact statement through March 31st, 2025, as well as comments on the permit renewal itself. We will take those comments and review and respond to those comments to prepare for the final issuance of the supplemental environmental impact statement. And then prior to making a final permitting decision and reviewing the comments associated with that, we'll issue the final supplemental environmental impact statement prior to the permit being issued itself. Next slide. I'll hand it over to Ryan and Dana for a little bit about how you can comment moving forward.
This is me. So both comment periods, both for the draft SEIS and for Perma-Fix, the permit renewal, have been extended to March 31st. They do each have their own link for comments. So if you have topical, you want to comment only on the SEIS, then you want to follow that one. Or if you don't like the computer or one isn't one handy, you can mail them or hand deliver them to me here at the office. They'll get input, and they'll end up on e-comments. And if you have any other questions that we might be able to help, you can email us at the hanford@ecy.wa.gov. Okay, it goes back to me again. So thank you, Eddie and John. We're going to start the question and answer session now. Please remember that we can answer questions, but we are not taking formal comment. Again, If you want to submit formal comment, you can do that through those things that I just, well, they're still on the screen. Look at that. I didn't know you went backwards. If you have multiple questions, we ask that you please ask them one at a time. You can, say, I have 4 questions, and but give us a chance to answer question number 1, and then we can go on to question number 2. That way we can, fully understand what you're asking and give you the best answer we possibly can. And then for the people online, you can put your questions in the chat or indicate that you have a question by raising your hand, and Ryan will read any questions in the chat, or you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. And we do ask again online, if you are not actively asking a question, please remember to mute your computer. We've had some interesting sounds come through the computer sometimes. So in the room, is there any questions here? Oh, so
I will after the online question.
Okay, we have one question online so far, and it's from Dan. And Dan asks, can you describe reactive metal?
Yeah. So reactive metal is associated with the characteristic waste code D003 typically. Types of reactive metals that you might see treated at treatment, storage, disposal facility would include sodium, potassium, or lithium. And they would have to carry that dangerous waste characteristic code to be treated at TSDFs around the country. So,
okay, we had a few questions from Nicholas. Nicholas, did you want to unmute and ask your questions?
Sure, thanks. I have a few questions, but I'll just ask one, and then I can ask a few more later if there's more questions. First, just I know there's not comments, but I just want to say thank you so much for having this public meeting. And for Challenge really appreciates it, and thinks this is a really important process in ensuring, safe and effective cleanup of Hanford, and they play a role in it. So my first question is to the age and design life of the facilities at Perma-Fix Northwest, as this facility is getting older. I didn't see any information in the draft SEIS, and so I was just wondering if any information on the age of the facilities and their design life will be included in the final draft. I do think it's important for assessing the long-term, safety and reliability of the facility.
yeah, so I appreciate, this is Eddie, I appreciate the comment, Nicholas. I would concur, in my review of the document, I don't think I saw anything about age or design life in there. So if you did want to make a comment regarding that on the SEIS, it would be much appreciated, and we'd be happy to respond to it there.
Thank you.
Okay, taking a quick second. I don't see any other folks yet online that have indicated that they want a question outside of Nicholas having some more questions. Was there anybody in the room that wanted to ask a question before we go back to seconds?
I have one.
Yeah.
So since it took so long to do that permit, how long is the new permit for?
It's effective for 10 years.
So the same period as the first initial one? Is it gonna go on an auto renew based on the current status, nothing changes, or is it gonna stay the same?
Say that again, sorry.
Is it gonna go on like an auto renew after 10 years? Or is it gonna go through the same process again?
So you guys, before the 10 years are up, you would submit a new renewal application to us, and we would perform a review. We would take, 15.
The same length of time?
Yeah, the way we formatted this and made significant updates to this permit, that it should not take that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Richard Ronan with Perma-Fix. I'm the Executive Vice President for Perma-Fix. I want to thank you guys. It's hard for me to say thank you for 15 years process, but I need to comment you on the last 2 years where your team, John, team back there, I need to recognize them, that the work they did on the last 2 years. We accomplished more in the last 2 years we did the 13 years before that. So I really appreciate it in how professional your people were and how they help us and we help you through that process. So I want to thank you. The other part on the aging the facility was built in 98 through and really operated since 2000. And there's a continuous preventive maintenance and improvement the facility that goes through. So aging, we all aging. I feel pretty old today, and we're all aging. But the facility is maintained continuously through a preventive maintenance program. So if we need to update equipment, then we need to go to permit mod. But the maintenance facility, it's an ongoing process of that. So.
I think we'll go turn back online for a couple of questions. Dan, I saw you have your hand raised. Did you want to ask another question?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you along the lines of what Nicholas said earlier. Really appreciate you taking the time to put this information together in a way that helps us understand what's happening at this interface between Richland and Hanford. And it's a busy area. And I really, I think that there's a lot of value in the work that you all put into taking a snapshot of what's going on in this area. So I want to appreciate the folks from Ecology who put a lot of effort into this document. I've been looking at the cumulative impact section and just trying to understand what is included in the conclusion that was reached that the project, that the permit would have a potentially significant impact on the air quality and human health under any action alternative. And that's on page 123 of the SEIS. And so from our perspective, we're just trying to understand what is DFLAW already kind of baked into this analysis, and then what else might be part of the overall Perma-Fix kind of area impact. What are we expecting to happen that might be I guess what I'm trying to convey is that there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going on with Hanford cleanup that seems to spill over and impact Perma-Fix and all of these discussions. So how confident are you in the cumulative impacts analysis that you've captured what's going on now and what will happen in the near future?
Yeah, so let me try to grasp the question here and rephrase it and see if I've captured it here. So I'm trying to get down to 123 myself, what you had referenced there regarding the cumulative impacts. So regarding waste from the Hanford site, so I think the document does a pretty good job at breaking down waste streams from generator sites, whether it's Hanford, Department of Defense facilities or Department of Energy facilities or other generators that Perma-Fix has done business with. And the document does take, to some extent, to look back at that to give us a good idea of like maybe what the future holds for the facility and the cumulative impacts that you're talking about here. When it comes to direct feed, low activity waste startup out at the Hanford site, and the impacts of that associated with Perma-Fix Northwest, I can't be speculative about a generator's treatment activities that haven't started yet. The waste that might be generated from that activity going to a specific permitted facility out there, right? So we do our best with the information that we have available to us associated with the data around, you know, how many tons of waste come from the Hanford site or another generator facility, and put that in here. But it's kind of hard to speculate about something that hasn't been generated yet and hasn't been started up yet. So, you know, to answer the question, and maybe I should rephrase the question like I said I was going to do, but I guess the question is, do we have an idea of the cumulative impact of DF law on the operations of Perma-Fix Northwest in that particular scenario? And I will say, no, we don't. We can only look at what has been generated out of the Hanford site, has been sent to Perma-Fix Northwest, and how that cumulative impact impacts the environment and the human environment around here as well. The residents, the facilities around Perma-Fix Northwest.
Thanks, Eddie. And Dan put one comment in the chat that was just apologize for the complicated question. The document does a very good job of giving different waste stream estimates, but it seems to me that the cumulative impacts may be even greater than those estimated, which is a lot to contemplate. Thank you. Nicholas, I know you had a couple more questions. Did you want to ask another question?
Yeah, that'd be great. So my next question goes to, I think some of the items that I saw that just seem to be kind of already outdated. That may be a result of just how long this process has taken, and we'll definitely use our comments that we submit to lay these all out. But I guess my question is, you know, how will these, like, for example, like the maps that are included in here that, you know, omit like a new, you know, approximately 280 unit apartment complex in the area, and a sports facility and new restaurants and a dog training facility that just aren't on these maps. Or another example, I think, is like the population of the city of Richland is already, you know, significantly larger than what was in the draft SEIS document. And so my question is just, will those all be updated in the final document? And then I kind of find that it's difficult to evaluate, you know, the decision and the alternatives without all of that up-to-date information. So just wondering how that was done.
Yeah, so I appreciate the comment. I think I will concur with your observation regarding some of the maps and when they were pulled and what they were representing in the document, and would certainly appreciate the comment regarding the construction of residential facilities or other facilities around Perma-Fix Northwest. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask and see if there's anybody else in the room that has a question.
I have a couple questions, like maybe you could do like Nicholas and ask one at a time. But,
Sounds good.
I'm David Replug with Tri-City Development Council. Also echo the thanks to the Ecology team for having this public meeting, opportunity to learn more about the process, as well as sounds like it's been a really productive last couple of years in getting the permit to where it is today. The first question I have is, and this is probably something I should already know, but is there any other kind of permits or regulatory body that does any regulation of the Perma-Fix facility? I know that because I believe that you do some commercial work as well. So is NRC involved, or any other state or federal agencies that are involved in some way or another?
I will say yes, and I would like to get to the list of them so I can read them off for you, but let me find that real quick.
Say Washington Department of Health, Benton County, and EPA as well. So EPA for Tosca PCB to Washington Department of Health for the radiological component of the waste out there, and they have a rad license for the materials license and also for the red air as well.
Yeah, so building off of what you had mentioned there regarding TSCA and Department of Health, BCA, I think you covered that as well. They have a license to export and import radioactive waste under the USNRC. And they also have a City of Richland substantial development permit that was associated with, I believe, the initial construction of the facility. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I know you have a second question. Let me see if there's any other questions in the room. Let's see if there are any ones online.
Yeah, I think Nicholas had another one and then Dan had. Go online real quick.
Sure, we'll do one and then we'll come back to you.
Sounds good. Okay, Dan, did you want to ask your next question?
Sure, thank you. It's kind of a double question, and it has to do with just what could be happening in the time period that this permit would be operational. And so the first question is, what is the thermal risk assessment process for the GML system? Just like, how does that relate to this? It's in the SEIS, and it seemed like a big uncertainty. This would be something dealt with later. And then the second question is, would Perma-Fix have any plans or interest in the future in bringing or treating PFAS waste at Perma-Fix? And I'm just thinking about the overall burden, essentially, of what comes into that area. So, yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, so I think I can answer the first one there regarding the PFAS. I'm not too familiar with that. It almost sounded like it might have been directed to Perma-Fix, but we'll start with the first one. So related to GeoMelt, it was identified in the supplemental environmental impact statement, partly because I think two reasons, in my opinion. One, there has been treatability studies that have been conducted with the GeoMelt system at Perma-Fix, and those were limited to a number of activities that occurred over the last couple of years. And there was an anticipation as we were finalizing everything for the permit renewal that we could have GeoMelt in the renewal or not, right? So I think that's why we find it in the list of alternatives under the supplemental environmental impact statement. What I will say for coverage regarding the GeoMelt system, right? So there would have to be a modification to the permit after this renewal becomes effective. If Perma-Fix were to decide if GeoMelt were to operate in the facility moving forward, we would require a modification to the dangerous waste permit. That would also trigger a review of our environmental impact statement coverage related to GeoMelt as well, which could further require another supplemental environmental impact statement going out for public comment. So what I'll say about GeoMelt is that you know, if Perma-Fix were to pursue this, I think there would be some work to be done on the permitting side, as well as Ecology doing reviews under the SEPA side, and that would all likely go, not likely, it would go back out for public comment and public review as well. Regarding PFAS and any expectation as to whether Perma-Fix would treat or store that waste at their facility, I do not have any information regarding that. But if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I can answer that question. PFAS, the regulation is not set on PFAS and on treatment standard and all that, but Perma-Fix spent a lot of money on research and R&D on PFAS treatment and destruction. We have one unit that's installed in our facility in Florida. But we don't have a plan right now to install a unit here. So there's, I wouldn't say there's a black hole, but there's kind of a vacuum here with Ecology and EPA on how we can permit that type of unit. So it's not part of the permit renewal. And if we do, that we'll need to have a discussion among ourselves. And then just to have a comment, I'm inviting you to come and see the facility. It will really help on your question, I think. I invited you, Nick, more than once, and I've never seen you at the plant. That will be really good if you can. It's an open place. We'll give you a tour. We'll show you the unit, the geomelt. I'll have the expert on geomelt there to walk you through also, but I really encourage you to come and see what we're doing and the impact with the area and all that. I think that will answer a lot of your question and suspicions. Invitation is open.
Thank you. So a comment, and then we'll go to the next question. Dan just had a comment that said, thank you for that answer and the invitation. I travel by there often. So Nicholas, do you have another question? And then I know David had another question too. So Nicholas, we'll go to you and then we'll go to David.
Thanks so much. So I know the draft SEIS mentions 2 fires at Perma-Fix Northwest in 2019. I guess my question is, have there been any other incidents such as fires, spills, or worker exposures at or near Perma-Fix Northwest since 2019?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So the 2 fires that you'll find in the supplemental EIS were associated with the mixed waste facility. One was, I believe, related to uranium, depleted uranium, and then the other one was related to the geomelt system and some of the treatability studies associated with that. So there's some information in the EIS about those. Ecology is aware of 2 other fires, one within the low-level waste facility, which is not within our authority. We did get notification of that fire, and our inspection team was, we referred it to our inspection team to follow up on it, right? Our inspection team had looked at that particular incident related to any of the satellite accumulation areas that might be found within the low-level waste facility, and they closed out that review through their compliance follow-up. The other fire that had occurred, I'm somewhat familiar with because I did receive a phone call, again, a courtesy phone call from Perma-Fix Northwest, was a brush fire off of the site as well. That was related to an electrical pole where there was a continuous air monitor attached to it. We received a courtesy notification of this fire along the boundary, I believe it was. Perma-Fix had reacted to it. It was not within the mixed waste facility, it was along the boundary, and they had contacted the Richland Fire Department related to that fire as well. So I think just to kind of put a cap on it, on all 4 incidents, we were notified of those fires. We made referrals to our compliance team to follow up on those fires. And you'll find in the EIS a request, not a request, but a requirement of Perma-Fix to do some causal analysis as to why they occurred and make changes in their practices to make sure those don't occur again.
I'd also point to, in the draft permit, you can look at addendum F, procedures to prevent hazards too.
Yeah, so you'll find in addendum F, as John had said, there's some information around preventing fires at the Perma-Fix Northwest facility as well. And if there's any comments associated with that, we would certainly appreciate any review and comments on those as well.
So can I add on this? Yeah, and you have a even better memory than I have. I forgot about the brush fires. I'm like, wait a minute. That really happened outside of the facility, but just full disclosure, anything that happened at the facility, we will report it to Department of Ecology and Department of Health. And all those fires that we didn't have any exposure to our employee, we didn't have any release to the environment. Everything was contained, not the brush fires, but that was not waste. Waste was not really involved with that, but everything is contained under ventilation. That building is a containment by itself. So it's come back every time there's a public meeting, the fire, and it was such a small incident, really under controlled by yourself and fully reported. And you guys were the enforcement people. We just came, I think you were the enforcement at that time. Just came to look at it and all that. So just want to make sure it's clear. And if you come to see the facility, I'll show you where that happened.
There was one quick follow-up just on the same topic, or the same question, which was that is there a reason why those two other fires weren't included in the draft in SEIS?
Yeah, I think the main reason is they occurred outside of the mixed waste facility. And they were under, specifically the one at the low-level waste facility was reported to the Department of Health. And there was some requirements on Perma-Fix's part to write reports associated with that to Department of Health, not Ecology. And the brush fire did not result in a environmental reporting tracking system notification, but we did get a courtesy call regarding that and followed up with our enforcement team as well to make sure that it wasn't related to any of the generating activities or the permitted activities at the facility.
One other quick follow-up question, in addition to that was that brush fire caused by equipment owned or operated by Perma-Fix Northwest?
Yeah, so I don't have the follow-up myself from what our compliance team had requested information on. What I do know is that it was related to an electrical pole where a continuous air monitor was attached to it, a requirement likely under Department of Health for radioactive air emissions around the facility or whatever it may be. So I don't have that information off the top of my head, but I do know that our compliance team did respond and requested some information regarding that. So.
Back to you, David.
We made it back to you.
All right, well, thank you. Our next question is specific to the no action alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, that would mean that the permit is not renewed and the facility moves into a closure plan. Within the scope of that no action alternative analysis, are the implications on hamper cleanup sort of considered there in terms of, as I understand it, Perma-Fix that capability plays an important role in supporting some portions of hamper cleanup. And so if you no longer had that facility to provide that capability, what would that mean to hamper? What would it take to replace it, that capability and that sort of thing? Is that something that is included or should be or could be?
To be honest, I don't know. But I do understand your question and your comment there regarding if Perma-Fix Northwest were to have to close any of the waste that did go from the hamper site to the Perma-Fix Northwest facility, how would that hinder the cleanup mission out of the hamper site? As far as I understand, I don't think the SEIS addresses that. But would certainly appreciate a comment around that, and we can respond to it further if we need to. Yep.
Okay, do we have any other questions in the room?
I don't see any more questions online. So last call.
Okay, it's your last chance, everybody.
Hi, this is Nicholas. I have a couple more things. First, I just wanted to say I did see one thing recently in the news that was a little more promising to me for work at Perma-Fix Northwest. So I know it can be pretty critical, but I did see that there was some kind of an agreement for Perma-Fix Northwest to use some unionized workforce out at Hanford, which I think is a great idea. I think that makes sure that there's people who are trained and ready and have done this type of work and have this expertise and safety culture and can stick up for their members if there, are accidents at the site or something like that. So I just would also I don't know how that plays a role for ecology in considering too, but I do think that's a positive development we've seen in the news for Perma-Fix Northwest, and just have to give credit also for that. And along those lines, it's a couple of times where I've heard that I've received an invitation to tour Perma-Fix Northwest, but and I also double checked my email just now. I've actually never received an invitation to tour the facility. So it's been said a couple of times, but that's actually not how I understand it. So I'm happy to tour anytime and take a look. So I'll just put that out there.
Email's
Well-
coming tomorrow. Now, Nick, you probably don't remember, but I invited you at the FFRDC meeting in Richland about supplemental law treatment. We did discuss there, and I made the invitation at another meeting. It was verbal, so no proof. So in court, nobody will win. I'll send you an email tomorrow.
Well, I think Dana said this is being recorded. So
There's a record now, Nick.
So you're gonna have to download this, Nicholas. And,
Yeah,
You don't
that
email.
sounds great.
All right.
Questions?
I put in one last call for questions online, so we'll give that just a few seconds in case anybody else has any other questions. Did you want to?
Anybody here? They're all quiet.
Okay, I don't see any others online.
Okay, well then, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. The recording, which we just talked about, will be available on our public comment period page and on the Ecology YouTube channel soon. And please remember to submit any of your comments for either the draft SEIS or the Perma-Fix permit renewal by March 31st. You do have until 11:59 p.m. to do that. So if you're a night owl, you could do it at night. And the comment period will end that night. And then thank you for coming and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.